right, there he is, ESPN's own Marcel Louis-Jacques. How you feeling, baby? You feeling good?
I'm good, man. I am good. I'm good.
All right, so Jimmy Butler is a dog. You would agree on that, right?
Yeah,
You're
especially in the playoffs. We know that. We know who he is.
He's dog everywhere. It don't matter if it's the playoffs. He's dog everywhere. Okay, so obviously the Heat don't have another dog. Then I'm not sure. Do you follow hockey at all? Do you know hockey? I'm not sure.
Nah, I bet you.
Okay.
I'll tell you what. I bet you if I got one season, to really follow hockey, then I could talk it with the best. Like I could talk it. Like I can integrate.
Well, you're in a town with a team that's now been in the playoffs 4 straight years. I think you better watch it.
Hey, and look, man, I've been to 3 hockey games in my life. 2 of them have involved the Florida Panthers. So
there you go. So since you don't know, let me just fill you in. Kachuk, Sam Bennett, Verhaeghe, and Montour are all dogs. Kachuk is a superstar, but all 4 of them are dogs. So Marcel Louis-Jacques, I ask you, how many dogs has Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel collected on this roster? Name them.
Do you want the ones that Greer has brought, or just dogs, period, on this roster?
Dogs, period, on the roster. What have they collected? How many do they have?
Let's start on offense. On that offensive line. Teron Armstead, dog. Connor Williams, dog. Alec Ingold, dog. Tyreek Hill, dog. Jalen Waddle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what kind of attitude. I don't know what kind of attitude he has, but like he's a hooper. So like you gotta.
Well, let me fill you in. The first year told you he was a dog. Everybody, he's catching 6 yards, dude. He's catching everything with people next to him, hitting him. He's only moving the chains. He played a completely different kind of wide receiver. Had to be tougher. Actually, he had to be tougher.
He was miscast. He was miscast as a slot receiver,
and he was a stud doing it. And he was a stud doing it.
He was the only. I voted him team MVP. It was don't get Poupart started on this, but I voted him team MVP last year because as valuable as X was, oh my God, if that offense didn't have Jalen Waddle.
I know. Of course. So 5. Go ahead.
Yeah. Mostert, Wilson, dog.
Okay. 7. I think you got the offense.
I think that's probably about it. You know what?
Oh, Hunt.
I'm gonna go to a dog, bro. I'm gonna go to a dog.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah, of course. He was the number 1. Yeah, and Hunt. No, and I got to put Hunt in there. By the way, I got to put Hunt in there.
He don't strike you as a killer, Tua, because of the soft spokenness and like the kind of like lighthearted guy. But 2 times last year, that man had to be perfect. Yeah. Against the Bears, against the Lions, he had to be perfect. And he was perfect.
And the Ravens in the second half of the game.
And he was perfect. So I'm gonna give him dog status.
I agree with Tua, and we got to throw in Rob Hunt. I forgot about that.
Yeah, too. I'm gonna give Tua terrier status, like a burgeoning dog, like small dog, but still a dog status. Okay. You know, because like it ain't Mahomes dog level, but nobody is. That's alpha dog. Tua's still a dog though. Let's go to defense. Christian Wilkins, dog. Jalen Phillips, dog.
Yeah, he's gonna have
Zach Sealer, dog. Ramsey, dog. Holland, dog. Howard, dog.
Yeah, that might be it. You know, Agba was working on that, but then he had the setback, and now
Agba can be a dog. Chubb can be a dog too.
Yeah, he can be, but he hasn't yet here. So
I'm gonna go Chubb dog because like we've seen what he could do when he's healthy. He was playing through a broken wrist last year, which wasn't made into a big deal when he said it last week because we were never told. We just saw him in the cast and, assumed, okay, like the brace is, for protection. He had a broken wrist. Yeah. You're edge rusher, man. You fight with your hands. A broken wrist is not easy to play with. Yeah. So I'm going to give him dog status.
Okay.
I'm going to give him dog status.
Which then, it tells you also how much more special Jimmy Butler is, that he really doesn't play with another dog next to him.
David Long.
And yet somehow, yeah, I think he's going to be one of those. He hasn't turned into that yet, but I see the potential there. You're right about that. But it shows how special Jimmy Butler is. You know what I'm saying? That you need the dogs in your team, no matter what sport it is, and yet that guy somehow or another is fighting through all of that. We'll see what happens on Saturday, but it's just an interesting conversation.
And I can't forget my boy too. My boy Cater, a dog too.
Oh yeah, he was last year.
I can't forget my boy Cater, man.
He was. That's good.
The willingness to thump and run support. That's
Big
what
time.
I think sets him apart. You don't see that a lot from defensive backs. Definitely not UDFAs from Texas A&M Commerce. Cater, a dog.
But then again, rookies aren't normally built like him physically. I don't think people realize that. Like he was he came into this league not really needing to bulk up, whereas like 85% of the guys that walk into this league, I don't care if you're a lineman or a D lineman, or you usually are undersized or not strong enough to be in this league, and you have to then better that when you're in the league. Cater from the get-go was physical enough.
I never do this because like I hate when people say like, oh wow, this guy is ripped. NFL players are ripped. They are like that. It's the goofiest thing in the world when people break down off season, like how they look.
Right.
That's how that man looks. He's 365. So like I don't do this because I'm not trying to be weird, but like Cater is the most pound for pound built guy in that locker room.
Yeah, bro.
Like I first time I saw, I was like, this is a rookie.
Right.
Texas Commerce had him right, or it's just good genes. I don't know, but the guy is built, man.
The guy has an NFL body coming out of Division II, which was just sick, and that's why I think he was able to be so physical, because he's a little hammer, bro. You know, if you just all you have to do is look at him in the locker room, you're like, whoa, dude, wow, you're not built like a rookie, bro. You know, it's like no wonder you're a thumper. No wonder you have no problem, you know, hitting people. And you're right. That was probably the most impressive thing about him, that he was that physical for a young corner.
So that's a dog pound. That's the lineup.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted, because we were having that conversation leading into this one, and I want to remind people, you know, I also laugh at the person that tells me, well, you know, I'm really not that happy with Chris Greer. And I'm like, oh, really? Okay, so this is the best team you've had in 20 years. This is the best quarterback since Marino. Excuse me, why are you unhappy? And then they'll throw out like Noah Igbenogany. I'm like, yo, bro, you're going to pick one bad pick out of all the other ones that were really good? And I trip out on the guy that is still tripping on Chris Greer at this point.
So here's my thoughts. I wouldn't have been surprised if Chris Greer was fired alongside Brian Flores. And hear me out here.
Okay.
Because a lot of focus and a lot of capital was put into that 2020 draft, right? You don't get rid of your two best players for picks, and we're hearing about take this, take that, Miami, like 3 first-round picks. And we're just now seeing the returns on one of them. We're just not seeing the return. In all reality, like we could have, like we've seen the flashes from Tua. You could have said, you know, he's gonna be, but like there's only been 1 year where he was, right?
Right.
So for a second, for about a year or two there, especially as we see Justin Herbert have the rookie year that he had, and saw Austin Jackson struggle, and we didn't see Noah Igbenogany, you had a legitimate argument going into the 2022 season that all 3 of those picks whiff. And if you whiff on 3 first-round picks, it's hard to survive, especially when one is a quarterback. So last year, then we saw a man kind of, you know, dare I say, fight for his life. The man, this guy who doesn't make blockbuster trades in that direction, goes out and gets Tyreek Hill. He goes and gets the offensive guru. He goes and gets a Bradley Chubb. Like, he's aggressively adding talent to this roster. And then we saw Tua develop, and now the man looks bulletproof. What he's done, the depth,
By the way, hold on a second. I get that Tua maybe changes that whole draft, obviously, because once you get your franchise quarterback, it becomes successful. And maybe Austin Jackson turns the corner here. Noah is done. But don't forget that that's the same draft with Robert Hunt, with Brandon Jones, and Raekwon Davis.
And all of that is fine. But you did not trade Laramie Tunsil. You did not trade Minkah Fitzpatrick for Brandon Jones and Rob Hunt. Like, that's good. I'm not discounting that at all. But if you whiff on 3 first-round picks in the same draft,
support our business.
Come on, bro.
No, I get it. But
it's too valuable.
I get it, but he hasn't whiffed on those 3 picks because
he hasn't whiffed on. He didn't whiff on one of them. We know. We know he didn't whiff on one. Austin Jackson could go either way. Noah's not.
No, Noah's not.
Although, like, credit to Noah, the man was really asked to. He was called upon one real time last year, and he came through. The Pittsburgh game, the game-ending interception, that was one of my favorite moments in the season because, like, I know that man going through it. Like, he knows. We all know. Everybody's on the same page here. So to see him come out like that, I just like to see people succeed. That was really cool.
Yeah,
that was really cool. I feel like I just wrote about that somewhere. I don't remember where. I just highlighted that. Well, yeah, like for a while, that's what I'm saying. That's why if Ross decided to just reset, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I get it.
I wouldn't.
Wasn't nothing in 2021. He was nothing to, bang a table about in 2021. It wasn't his fault.
Well, then that's
fault, but it was nothing that season was nothing to.
But I can't blame him for that. I can't blame him for that when everything's going against him.
You can't, and that's just particularly clear after last year when he had talent and coaching around. It's particularly clear. But that's what I'm just saying. Like, he wouldn't have been shocked if when they let Flores go, if Ross just said, okay, everybody gone.
I wouldn't have been shocked only in the sense that it just continues to prove that Ross doesn't know what the hell he's doing and doesn't really understand football. That's kind of what would have gone with me because that's kind of been consistent with him, that he doesn't understand football and doesn't really make good decisions. And that's why he got his team in trouble with a first and a third, trying to get Brady with his boy Spiel. So
I know we just talked about that last week or last time I was on. God, that's a hell of a punishment. That's a hell of a punishment. But like I said last week, they were punished for tampering and tanking, even though publicly they didn't find them guilty of tanking. If you read the report, it's clear the NFL, Flores didn't lie. I'll put it that way. Everybody's so mad at Flores. You could be mad at him for snitching, I guess, but you can't be mad at him for lying.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. All right. What do you know now about some of the draft picks that you didn't know then and you like or don't like?
I mean, it's a pretty short list. So, H.A., only player in college football to score a touchdown receiving, rushing, and returning in each of the past 2 seasons.
A-Chain?
Yeah. I love that versatility. So a couple years ago, I will take credit. I divided the Buffalo Bills fan base right in half because I told them ETN, if he's there at whenever the hell they were picking 30, ETN was the guy. ETN is a dog. I covered him in college. I know how he could be used. Don't think of it as drafting a running back in the first round. Think of it as drafting somebody who's going to help your offense win the Super Bowl. People were they're mad at me to this day. To this day, I get shit for it. A-Chain is the same type of player with way more value because you got him in round 3. And you're not paying him first round money. So like I'm watching with keen intent here. I know like Cam Smith's going to be moved all around that defensive backfield, I'm sure. But I really am interested with what they do with A-Chain because Mostert it took half the year really for them to start going to Rheaume Mostert. The fact that he turned out 800-900 rushing yards despite not really logging double-digit carries until like week 8 I thought was noticeable, or was commendable, not noticeable. But they didn't really have that explosive threat out of the backfield, not as a receiver. So like I love the fact that he adds that safety valve that's going to help protect Tua too at the end of the day. When hey, don't run for your life, go find A-Chain out the backfield and go let him work. Like so, I think it goes a long way. So that's the guy. And I know low hanging fruit, but like I said, bro, there's 4 draft picks. I'm not gonna.
No, I mean the 6th or 7th rounder. Come on, bro. I mean, give me a break. Those are guys that you're just hoping something sticks there, and you find something that can be a backup or a role player or something like that. That's what you're hoping for. Hey, and to their credit, they brought in a bunch of young offensive linemen. Maybe you'll find, one that you can develop there. And I'm sure you're going to stash some on the practice squad this year to kind of be prepared just in case, because last year was a revolving door, at that point.
Yeah. So the UDFAs, I will see when I see them. I'll see them when I see them, with all due respect. Congratulations to the start of their career. No disrespect to them, obviously. But, I'm not going to say any of them are making a big impact until I see it.
What did you think of Mostert's comments? One of the things that I've been excited about with McDaniel is that he's a smart guy. He is stubborn, and you've been in the business now for a few years, and I think you've kind of learned already that most coaches are kind of stubborn and set in their ways. Mm-hmm. And some of them may not even learn from their mistakes because they're so stubborn and set in their ways. But I thought, last year we had so much criticism of him, at least some of us did. I know I did. The one thing that pissed me off about him was that he didn't stick with the run much. When it was working, especially at times, that Green Bay and that Buffalo game, that he was gouging the crap out of him, and he didn't stick with it. And his conversation with Mostert, and then Mostert obviously shared that with you guys, that, the coach was like kind of apologetic about it, and wanting that he's going to tell him, hey, I got to do the right thing this year is, when the run is working, commit to it a little bit more. Your thoughts on that in general, knowing what you know about coaches in general, and knowing what you know about Mike McDaniel now that you've been around him for a year.
He's always struck me as a smart guy, but not too smart for his own good, if this makes sense. Smart people, like the really smart people, know what they're not good at and delegate to the people who are. That's a really smart and a really emotionally mature person. It's not that he's accepting the fact that like, oh yeah, I'm not a defensive guy. I can't learn how to be one. The smart move is let me go find the best person who can.
Right.
And so a smart person, an emotionally in tune person, a mature person knows, okay, my bad. They know when to say I messed up. This was on me. Lack of a run game last year, you averaged 4.9 yards per carry. It was not your fault. I did not dedicate myself to the run game. We got to remember that was his first year as a head coach. You can study how to be a head coach. You can watch head coaches your whole career. You can think you know what to do in this scenario, but you don't actually know until you are in the scenario. So we'll take last year as a learning experience. And while he was learning, the Dolphins still had the number 3 offense in the NFL.
Right.
I think that, I think they're in a good position. I think they are more equipped to run the ball this year. Chase Edmonds, again, like they paid him like an RB1 last year, like their RB1 last year. He didn't work out those first few weeks. And that's like when I mentioned earlier, how it took him a little while to commit to Rheaume. I think, healthy offseason for Rheaume. He didn't participate in a lot of offseason workouts, if you remember as well. He'll get a full one under his belt. Wilson gets a full one under his belt. They still got A-Chain to spell. If Austin Jackson remains healthy, I think this run game has potential, and it should be a lot better than last year. But, there's a lot of ifs. There's a lot of ifs with the Dolphins. If this run game can be efficient, if this defense can match what it looks like on paper. But if those ifs come into fruition, we're talking about probably the most complete team in the NFL. One of the most complete teams in the NFL. Let me not sound like a homer.
No, I'm with you there. You look at what's it called with A-Chain. Are you expecting what kind of a role? I mean, it's kind of unfair to even ask you this because we have to see what he does in the preseason and if he picks up the offense and how much he picks it up. Like Alzugaray looked great, and then he couldn't contribute in the regular season. You know what I mean? So
yep.
I'm not exactly sure, but I'm wondering, what do you know about the kid and his transition to this offense compared to what he was in?
I mean, I would imagine it's a slow transition. I think running back is relatively easy from going from college to the NFL. But when you look at this team last year, the only two players I think with over 100 touches were Rheaume and Tyreek Hill. They like to spread the ball around a lot. So it's difficult to say. I think Jeff Wilson finished with 96 over a 17-game season. I just wrote this somewhere, man. I think it was in our fantasy football guide. But I think it averages to somewhere around like 160 or 180 touches. So we could expect three guys with over 150, right? Three guys with over 120. I don't know how close to that top three A-Chain gets. I think he might have an opportunity if Mostert or Wilson is ineffective to move up that ladder. Mm-hmm. But until then, I think expectations low. He's not needed to be this breakout. You know, they don't need him to be Bijan Robinson, for example. They don't need him to be what Saquon was to the Giants or what Jonathan Taylor was to the Colts. You know, well, not really Taylor. Taylor took a couple weeks, I think. But they don't need him to come in and have a monster role right away. I think, you know, third down back probably, you know, specialty situations. Maybe they'll have a package for him. But I would imagine it'll be pretty slow.
What do you got going on ESPN so folks can check you out, my friend?
Broke down the draft class a little bit, just addressing people who thought maybe the Dolphins should have gone line tight end with the first two picks, kind of letting them know why this corner running back, you know, these selections, they were addressing needs. It just wasn't the ones you thought they needed. Chris Greer, I thought he gave kind of an illuminating quote there on day one when someone asked him about offensive line and tight end, and he basically said, y'all thought that was a big deal. We didn't. I think y'all are more worried about that than we are. And so kind of reminding people, I was kind of surprised how many people forgot how thin Miami was at cornerback last year.
Right.
Like I mentioned that, I thought it was obvious when I mentioned it on Twitter. I got a lot of replies of people saying, oh, shit, that's right. Yeah, man. If X couldn't play, bad vibes. So, I think that Fangio looks at the guys that he did have in his room already, and I'm talking about Needham and Kohu. He might be looking at them more as slot guys, and maybe he was more comfortable with Cam because he was a longer player and he can play on the outside. Since a lot of us are kind of thinking that Ramsey, anyways, is going to be moved around, you know, that star position that they call it or whatever. And I can see him going up against bigger receivers in the middle or even a tight end that's giving them trouble. And then who's going to play on the outside at that moment? And that's where I think Cam comes out and plays and fills in. And then eventually, I think when you move on from X next year, that's when Cam can take over as a full-time starter. I think this was a Fangio thing that he probably said, nah, I need a bigger corner here to work with this. And then that's where these guys went and got Cam for him. There's a lot of physical corners because, I mean, Ramsey's not a small guy. X is not particularly small guy.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of physicality in that cornerback room.
Right. And Cam's like that too.
Yeah.
Same thing. By the way, what did you hear about his immaturity?
I didn't hear it. I haven't heard anything about his immaturity. What have you heard about his immaturity?
No, he's immature. He's immature off the field. One of my scouts called him a bit of a nut off the field. But he loves football, and he loves to play the game, and he needs the game in his life. So that's the difference. You know, I said in the draft that DeJuan Jones did not love football. That's what I'm told by people in the league. And now it finally came out yesterday. I think Dov Kleiman had it. He put out that that DeJuan was telling teams that he wanted to be a basketball star, not an NFL star.
Yeah, DeJuan came out and called it cap, but
but he could call whatever he wants, bro. I got plenty of people in the league that were with him in meetings.
The way I see it is,
it wasn't one person that told me he didn't love football. Just like it wasn't one person that told me that Cam Smith has some immaturity issues.
I'll put it this way: this is Miami. This is Miami, and since I've been here, at least, nobody's really gotten in trouble in this city. Not that we've heard of, not that's come out. It's one of those cities where you have to be keenly aware of who you are bringing in, of who you're drafting, who you're signing, because it's an easy city to get in trouble. It's an easy city to get on, be in the news for the wrong reasons if you stay outside. So
I think Ramsey and Holland are very important for Cam Smith's life. Just going to say it there. By the way, the last time I told people that a cornerback was immature and he got drafted, his name is Vontae Davis. Just so you know. So I don't. When I throw it out there, I don't throw it out there because I'm pulling it out of my ass. I actually know people in the freaking league that'll tell me all the things that went on in these interviews at times. And so Cam, everybody loves him, but the only reason he fell out of that first round is maturity. That's the only reason.
People grow up, right?
Outside, and who doesn't have to grow up at that age? By the way, but again, it's not like he's a bad dude. There's a difference. Vontae Davis was not a bad dude either. Immaturity is you gotta define it. Sometimes you just haven't grown up yet. You just haven't embraced your responsibilities. Doesn't mean you're out there causing crimes or ruining people's lives. Or that wasn't what Vontae was about. And this kid's not about that either. He's not a bad dude. He just has to grow up a little bit. And that's why I think that a guy like Ramsey and Holland are very important in that locker room for him. So, anyway. So there you go. There's something you can dig on if you want.
That's it. I guess we'll see. We'll see. But
he'll be all right. He'll be all right.
I think he'll be all right. Keep him up in Davie.
He'll be all right. He's got Wilkins. He's got Armstead. He's got a lot of good character people in that locker room. So he'll be all right. He'll be all right. He's again not a bad kid. Just has to grow up and understand his responsibilities. Outside of that, he'll be fine. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Marcel_LJ and catch his work there at ESPN. Marcel, as always, thank you for the time, my brother. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. See you on Monday.
You got it. Have a great weekend. Now, remember, if you want to have a great week or month or year, well, then you've got to call Welt and Rheaume, because if you're dealing with those insurance companies, you just had some water damage in your condo, in your home, maybe you were dealing with some of the storms here, and now you've made the mistake of calling the insurance company. Why do I say that? Because you never call the insurance company. You call Welt and Rheaume first. You explain everything to them, free consultation. They'll tell you if you have a case. And if you have a case, they're going to send their adjusters. And they will call the insurance company to bring their adjusters. And then they will straighten out the insurance company and their adjusters. And I know that because I lived it. Okay? And those of us that are married, you know how that battle goes. My wife said, no need to call. I'm going to call the insurance company. And, a lot of times my wife is right and I'm wrong. But in this case, I was right. And she ran into a wall called Progressive. And they were trying, of course, to screw us over. Because that's what insurance companies will do. They will try to screw you over. And so guess what? Progressive got crushed by Welt and Rheaume. All right? And that's what you're going to love. They got us what we needed to fix, which was like 5 times more than what Progressive was asking for. That's all you need to know, folks. I tell you all the time. Call Welt and Rheaume anywhere in Florida, 954-966-4646. Consultation is free. Get on the phone, call them. They'll take care of you. Welt and Rheaume. Call Jeff right now, 954-966-4646. Do not deal with these insurance companies. and their adjusters. They're only out to screw you. They only care about collecting your premium. When you need their help, they're not there for you. Welt and Rheaume will make sure they live up to their responsibilities.
This is the